Welcome back to another Millennial in-depth video. If you are new here, hit that subscription button below, turn on the notification bell so you get that every single time I upload a video. We're trying some new audio here. Let me know how you like it in the comments. I'm toying around with some ASMR. No, I'm not, but it seems like I could. This mic seems like I could. I just released, or pre-order I should say, is available for my first book called So This Is Why I'm Broke. This is the cover. It is available for pre-order on sothisiswhyimbroke.com. But as I sat down to write the book, edit the book, and just think about how I wanted the book to be received and perceived and all of those things, I wanted it to be a book that was accessible. I wanted it to be a book that was helpful, a guide that wasn't just spewing out the things that are all over the internet already that we know and that we've heard. I wanted it to be something that you can write all over and use and go back to, and not just let it sit on your shelf, and collect dust. And so in doing that, it really made me think about the personal finance space, and it made me think about the tips and tricks and advice that's offered in the personal finance space, and how it could be really alienating, and it could be offensive, and it really can make you feel like you just don't know what you're doing, and that you just don't understand money, and that you never will if you don't follow this guide. And I'm very transparent when I say that certain things will work for certain people, certain things work for me that I know won't work for certain people because I've had certain advantages, right? Because when I talk about how I paid off my debt story, I am very clear about I was able to stay at home with my parents without having to pay rent. That is not a privilege that everyone has. And so the certain steps that I took, yes, are accessible to everyone, and certain steps that I took are just not, right? And so that's what I mean when I say that some of the personal finance advice just feels like it's not helpful in the way that I think people, want it to be. So we're going to talk about 5 things that I see and hear in the personal finance space that I have said in the past that just don't fit the narrative of what the personal finance space should be. Not in 2023 anyway. So the first thing we're going to start off with, and I definitely am guilty of saying this, and self-reflection is super important when it comes to money, especially when you have a platform and you're talking about money. And that is, if you can't buy it cash, then you shouldn't buy it, or that you can't afford it. And the concept of affordability is something I talk about very often, especially as a homeowner, where you can have too much house, right? Or the bank can say you can afford this, but when you really look at the numbers and your budget, you really can't. And so that advice, though I know it comes from a good place, it's not practical, right? Because there are a lot of things that people cannot afford to buy cash, but they can afford if they budget or save for it. And saying that, because I've definitely tweeted it a long time ago. And I remember when I posted that quote on Instagram, one of my followers, she mentioned that her mother worked really hard to get her a laptop for school, but she could not afford to, pay for it cash, and she really needed it for school. So she put it on credit and she paid it off over time. And had her mother not done that, she would have been really behind and would not have been able to keep up with her work and school. And I really thought about that and just the cavalier quote saying, if you can't afford to pay cash, you can't afford it. Well, then people wouldn't be able to go to college. People wouldn't be homeowners. Things happen, and, people's situations are different. So I think that although the intent behind that is supposed to be positive, the impact, especially for people, even my father bought so many things for my brothers and myself on credit that we really needed for school and just life. And to say a quote like that just feels like a slap in his face and a slap in anyone's face that cannot necessarily afford to buy everything cash in the current moment. So that's just something that I think we just need to get rid of, because it's just, it has no place in the personal finance space that I think we are trying to build as thought leaders and just positive people in general. Another thing that I'm definitely guilty of saying, or another piece of advice that definitely I think no longer belongs in the personal finance space, and that's telling people if you can't afford to buy it twice, then you can't afford it. I believe that's what it was. It's like a variation of if you're buying a $5,000 wallet and you can't afford to put $5,000 in it, then you can't afford it. Again, the concept of affordability, of course you want to buy and spend things within your means, and you want to give yourself nice things. And again, the intention behind those quotes that I have been guilty of posting myself is not to be harmful, but the impact is harmful. And I think that there are better ways to navigate the conversation of what is, affordable. I lean heavily in the book about talking about value spending, right? We spend on what we value. And in doing so, you're able to differentiate between things that are just out of pocket and just really serve no purpose to you or your finances or your budget, and not filled with this shameful, like, don't buy Starbucks coffee, you'll never be a millionaire, or don't buy that Gucci wallet because then you'll never buy a house. It's not as black and white as that. It's nowhere near as black and white as that. And so I think that is just another thing that we need to steer clear of, that I myself have steered clear of, because it's just, first of all, it's straight up rude. And that's just not the way to approach a healthy relationship with money. Money trauma is real, so we're not doing that anymore. The third piece of advice that I think we really need to adjust, right? Maybe not let go of, but adjust, is that damn $1,000 emergency savings fund. I think if we change the narrative, right, which we can always change the narrative and say that $1,000 is a great place to start, to build that financial habit, to build that financial routine of saving in your personal finance journey, as opposed to creating $1,000, that is the end all be all. That is the end all be all for emergency savings, because as we have seen with this pandemic, $1,000 does not go as far as it used to, and emergencies are costing more and more. And with layoffs and things happening and disabilities and people just not being able to cover expenses the way they once used to, $1,000 as the personal finance number is harmful. It's dangerous, especially if you're a homeowner, if you're a car owner, or if you have a child. $1,000 can go like this. Right? So we definitely want to change that narrative and focus in on an emergency savings fund that is 3 to 6 months of expenses. And you can start with that $1,000, and that $1,000 can be your first goal. And then $1,500 could be your next goal, or $1,200 could be your next goal. And there is no shame in how long it takes you to get there, as long as you know that the $1,000 is your first step or your first marker, and you are going to get to that 3-month mark or that 6-month mark, so that you can feel really secure in covering whatever financial emergency comes your way. Number 4 focuses in on the shaming of people spending money, right? Why do we make money? Why do we earn money, right? We need money to survive, but we also need money to help supplement the life that we're trying to live, or the life we want to live. And I know when I was first paying off my student loans, I had a very unhealthy relationship with money. I didn't understand that it didn't have to be one end or the other when it comes to paying off debt, that I can't get my nails done, I can't go out to eat, I can't celebrate a friend's birthday, I can't buy my loved ones gifts. Of course, you want to do that within reason, but I think especially at the time, so I was paying off my debt from 2013 to 2018. And so there definitely wasn't the personal finance influencers that are out there now. There definitely weren't the amount of literature and journalists that are out there talking about how, you can value spend. Value spending? I didn't know what value spending was. I was just like, okay, I'm going to work, I'm going to pay my bills, and any extra money I have is going to go towards this debt, but I'm not going to do anything that I enjoy or anything that's going to take my eye off that prize. And of course, you can be dedicated to, this cause that you're doing. You could be dedicated to paying off your debt or dedicating to saving on this, but you want to put yourself in your budget. You always want to make sure that you have money that is going towards you, towards things that you love, towards things that you appreciate. It doesn't mean it has to be $5,000, but it can be $25. It could be $30. It could be $35 a month that you set aside just for yourself, because baby, paying off debt is a journey. You deserve good things. And I think that, especially early on in my money journey with myself, my debt payoff journey, I didn't look at money as a tool. I looked at money as I have it, I got to pay bills, and that's that, right? I never thought about value spending on things that I really enjoy that brought me joy, and still continuing to pay debt, continuing to invest, continuing to save. So let's get that shame of spending out of here, because there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to spending money that you have worked really hard to earn. And the last, and certainly not least, personal finance tip or advice that I currently hear that I think we need to just let go of is that debt is a bad thing, right? That debt means you're bad with the money. If you have debt, you don't know how to manage your money. Similar to that first tip that we're letting go of, having debt is morally neutral. I 100% stand behind that. And I think the more we start to talk about debt as a morally neutral financial circumstance, financial situation, financial moment in life, then it will move people from feeling like, oh my God, I can't take on debt because then that means I don't know what I'm doing with money, or I can't take on debt because that's going to ruin my credit, or I can't take on. You can take on debt that you can manage, right? And you learn to manage, you learn to adjust. And of course, you don't want to take on debt unnecessarily. No one wants to do that. But getting a mortgage, getting a car note, getting a personal loan, having credit card debt because it is, you had to pay for things to survive. You had to pay to live your life. It does not mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're bad with money. I have a mortgage. I don't think I'm bad at money at all, right? I have credit cards. I don't have credit card debt, but even if I did, it wouldn't mean that I was a bad person. It would mean that I had a circumstance in which perhaps I had to pay for childcare, or perhaps I had to buy food because groceries are out of this world, right? So we don't know why people go into debt. Are there people who take on debt because they have a difficult relationship with money? Yes. Are there people who take on debt irresponsibly? Of course. But that doesn't mean that we're going to just give this blanket statement that debt makes you a bad person or makes you bad with money. We're not doing that in 2023. We're not doing it any other year. And we're just going to let go of that narrative, right? We're just going to, it's done. We're done with it. It's over. We're not, leaning into that type of narrative any further in the personal finance space. You know why? Because I said so. So that is that. I know this was a bit different from the type of videos that I tend to make. This was more of just like a rambling conversation with y'all. But if y'all liked it, if y'all liked the new audio, let me know. And I will catch you in the next one. Pre-order link in the description. Peace. Bye.